Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Some movies become classics because of unforgettable characters. Others earn their place through iconic scenes or endlessly quotable dialogue. Ferris Bueller's Day Off somehow became all of those things at once. Released in 1986, John Hughes' comedy about a teenager skipping school has remained one of the most beloved films of its generation. From the parade through downtown Chicago, to the Ferrari, the museum, and one of the most quoted final lines in movie history, the film has become a part of popular culture. But beneath its humor is a story with far more heart than it first appears. Like so many John Hughes films, Ferris Bueller's Day Off understands that growing up is complicated. It celebrates freedom and friendship while quietly asking what happens when childhood begins to slip away. And while Ferris Bueller may be the character everyone remembers, the emotional journey at the center of the film belongs to someone else entirely. Today, we're going back to one unforgettable spring day in suburban Chicago. We'll follow the story from beginning to end, uncover the behind-the-scenes decisions that made these moments iconic, and explore why this comedy has continued to resonate with audiences for nearly 4 decades. Our story begins with a teenager lying in bed, convincing everyone around him that he's too sick to go to school, or at least, that's what he wants them to believe. Ferris Bueller's Day Off opens in the quiet suburbs of Chicago, where Ferris Bueller lies in bed with one goal: convince his parents that he's too sick to go to school. The performance begins before anyone even walks to the door. A clammy forehead, a weak voice, and just enough coughing to make it believable. His parents immediately fall for it, showering him with sympathy as they reluctantly leave for work. The one person who isn't convinced is his sister Jeannie. While everyone else sees the perfect son, she sees exactly what Ferris is doing, and her frustration becomes one of the funniest running gags. It's a bold way to introduce a protagonist. Ferris lies to his parents within the first few minutes of the film, manipulates nearly everyone he meets, and spends the rest of the story breaking rules most teenagers wouldn't dare to test. On paper, he shouldn't be likable. John Hughes knew the audience had to fall in love with Ferris immediately, and he found the perfect way to make that happen. Before Ferris deceives anyone else, he tells the audience the truth. Looking directly into the camera, he explains exactly what he's doing, and even shares advice for faking a sick day. In that instant, we're no longer watching Ferris, we're helping him. Breaking the fourth wall isn't just a clever gimmick. It's an invitation to become a part of the adventure. Matthew Broderick understood that balance perfectly. He doesn't play Ferris as arrogant or rebellious. He plays him with warmth, charm, and just enough innocence that every lie feels playful instead of cruel. It's a performance that asks us to remember what it felt like to be young enough to believe that one perfect day could solve everything. Of course, Ferris had only cleared the first obstacle. Skipping school was never the difficult part. Now he has to convince his best friend, Cameron Fry, to come with him. With his parents convinced and the day officially underway, Ferris turns his attention to the one person he knows will never agree to this plan on his own. Cameron Fry isn't getting ready for school. He's lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, convinced he's genuinely sick. The contrast between the two friends is immediate. Ferris sees endless possibilities. Cameron sees reasons to stay exactly where he is. Their phone conversation tells us everything we need to know about their friendship. Ferris doesn't ask Cameron if he wants to skip school. He simply assumes he's coming. Cameron pushes back, listing one excuse after another, but Ferris knows his friend better than anyone. Beneath the anxiety and hesitation is someone who desperately needs to get out of the house. That relationship is what gives Ferris Bueller's Day Off its emotional foundation. While Ferris is the face of the movie, Cameron is its heart. John Hughes could have written Cameron as the nervous sidekick whose only purpose was to react to Ferris's antics. Instead, he gave him genuine emotional depth. Long before we learn anything about Cameron's relationship with his father, we can already feel the weight he's carrying. His bedroom is quiet, his voice is exhausted, and every decision feels overwhelming. Casting Alan Ruck only strengthened that dynamic. At nearly 30 years old, Ruck was much older than the high school student he betrayed, yet he captured Cameron's vulnerability so completely that audiences never questioned it. His performance isn't exaggerated for comedy. It's grounded, making Cameron feel like someone we've all known, or perhaps even been ourselves. Ferris eventually wins the argument, but his day still isn't complete. One more piece of the plan remains. If this is going to be the perfect day, Sloane Peterson has to come too, and getting her out of school may require Ferris's most convincing performance yet. Before long, Ferris arrives at the school disguised as Sloane's grieving father. Rooney watches the scene unfold with suspicion, convinced something isn't right. But once again, Ferris stays one step ahead. It's one of the film's funniest sequences because everyone involved is improvising. Yet Ferris carries himself with such confidence that even the adults begin to question their own instincts. That confidence is one of John Hughes' greatest writing decisions. Ferris rarely succeeds because of luck. He succeeds because he never hesitates. Every lie is delivered with complete conviction, and that certainty becomes contagious. It's a reminder that charisma can be just as powerful as intelligence, especially in a comedy built around impossible situations. The scene also reinforces something we've already begun to notice. Ferris isn't simply creating a day for himself. He's creating it for the people he loves. Cameron needs to escape the pressure waiting for him at home, and Sloane simply wants to spend time with Ferris. Bringing them together transforms the story from a teenager skipping school into three friends sharing a day they'll remember for the rest of their lives. For Cameron, borrowing the Ferrari is a line that should never be crossed. He begs Ferris to come up with another plan, reminding him that the car doesn't really belong to his father at all. His father owns it. He worships it. He even jokes that he loves the Ferrari more than he loves his own son. It's a line that's played for laughs, but John Hughes quietly plants the emotional conflict that will define the rest of the film. Ferris, of course, refuses to back down. To him, the Ferrari isn't just a beautiful car. It's freedom. If they're going to have the perfect day, they can't drive Cameron's ordinary sedan. They're going to do it in something unforgettable. Against every instinct telling him to stay home, Cameron hands over the keys. And with that decision, there's no turning back. As the Ferrari leaves the suburbs behind, Ferris Bueller's Day Off begins to feel bigger. The neighborhood streets give way to the Chicago skyline, and the movie opens into a love letter to one of America's greatest cities. John Hughes didn't use Chicago as a backdrop simply because he lived there. He wanted audiences to experience the city the way Ferris does, with excitement, curiosity, and the feeling that every corner holds another adventure. Decades later, many of the film's locations have become destinations for fans hoping to relive a small piece of that perfect day. But while Ferris is looking ahead to everything they're about to experience, Cameron can't stop looking behind him. Every mile on the odometer feels like another step toward the confrontation he's been avoiding his entire life. The city is finally in front of them, and Ferris is determined to make every minute count. The moment they arrive in Chicago, the pace of the movie changes. Up until now, every scene has been about getting away with something, outsmarting parents, fooling Principal Rooney, convincing Cameron to leave the house. But once Ferris, Cameron, and Sloane step into the city, the film allows itself to breathe. There is no longer a destination. The day itself becomes the destination. Their first stop is one of Chicago's most recognizable landmarks, the Sears Tower. Standing hundreds of feet above the city, the three friends press their hands against the glass and look out across the endless skyline. It's a brief scene, but it immediately changes the scale of the story. What began in the quiet suburbs now feels limitless. John Hughes wanted Chicago to feel like more than just a filming location. He wanted it to feel alive. Unlike many teen comedies of its era, Ferris Bueller's Day Off embraces the city at every opportunity, showing its architecture, neighborhoods, and energy with genuine affection. Hughes once described the film as his love letter to Chicago, and you can feel that in nearly every frame. The day continues with one of Ferris's boldest improvisations. Without a reservation, he confidently talks his way into an exclusive French restaurant by pretending to be the sausage king of Chicago, Abe Froman. It's another outrageous lie, but once again, Ferris succeeds because he never gives anyone any time to doubt him. Matthew Broderick delivers this scene with complete confidence, making the impossible seem completely believable. While Ferris charms everyone around him, Cameron quietly watches from the sidelines. He's laughing more now, relaxing more than we've seen all film, but the weight hasn't disappeared. It's simply waiting for the moment when this perfect day finally has to come to an end. After the excitement of the restaurant, Ferris Bueller's Day Off does something unexpected. Instead of racing to the next joke, John Hughes slows everything down. Ferris, Cameron, and Sloane wander into the Art Institute of Chicago. For several minutes, the movie almost stops speaking altogether. They walk through galleries filled with paintings, sculptures, and stained glass, taking in the artwork without rushing. Ferris and Sloane share quiet moments together, completely at ease. Cameron, however, drifts away from them. he eventually finds himself standing in front of a piece by Georges Seurat. He stares at the small child near the center of the painting. The camera slowly pushes closer as Cameron studies the image. The closer he looks, the more the painting dissolves into thousands of tiny dots. The child slowly disappears before his eyes. It's one of the most beautiful moments in the entire film because John Hughes never tells us what Cameron is thinking. There's no narration, no dramatic speech. Instead, the image does the work. Cameron is searching for something solid to hold on to, but the closer he looks, the more uncertain everything becomes. It's a quiet reflection of the fear he's carried since the beginning of the movie. Scenes like this are part of what separates Ferris Bueller's Day Off from so many other teen comedies of the 1980s. Hughes understood that silence could reveal as much about a character as dialogue. He trusted the audience to sit with Cameron's emotions instead of explaining them. When the three friends leave the museum, the laughter returns, but something has shifted. Cameron hasn't said much, yet we understand him far better than we did an hour earlier. The perfect day is still unfolding, but beneath the comedy, the emotional journey has quietly taken center stage. Leaving the museum, Ferris leads his friends back into the streets of Chicago, where the city is alive with music, dancing, and celebration during the Steuben Day Parade. Up to this point, Ferris has spent the day bending the rules just enough to stay one step ahead of everyone chasing him. Now, instead of hiding in the crowd, he becomes the center of it. Without warning, Ferris climbs aboard a parade float and takes hold of the microphone. He begins with Wayne Newton's Dankeschön, serenading the crowd with the same effortless confidence that's carried him through the entire day. Then, the music changes. The opening notes of the Beatles' Twist and Shout echo through downtown Chicago, and suddenly, the entire city seems to come alive. Office workers lean out windows. Construction crews stop what they're doing. Police officers smile. Complete strangers begin dancing together in the streets. For a few unforgettable minutes, everyone is caught up in Ferris's joy. What makes this sequence so memorable is how authentic it feels. John Hughes filmed this scene during Chicago's actual Von Steuben Parade, blending planned choreography with real spectators who had no idea how the scene would actually unfold. The decision gives the moment an energy that would be nearly impossible to recreate on a closed set. It doesn't feel staged. It feels like the city itself is celebrating alongside Ferris. The parade is also the clearest expression of who Ferris Bueller is. Throughout the film, he refuses to let fear, routine, or expectations dictate how he lives. Whether you agree with his choices or not, his greatest gift is the ability to pull other people into the moment. For one afternoon, Cameron forgets his anxiety. Sloane forgets about school. Even thousands of strangers forget whatever they're doing and simply enjoy the music. But perfect days never last forever. As the music fades and the excitement of the parade gives way to the drive home, the fantasy begins to crack. Ferris has spent the entire day believing that everything will work out because it always has. But when the three friends return to pick up the Ferrari, they discover something they never expected. The parking attendants haven't simply parked the car. They've taken it on a joyride, adding miles that Cameron knows his father will notice. For Ferris, it's another problem to solve. For Cameron, it's proof that his worst fears have come true. From the beginning of the film, the Ferrari has represented far more than an expensive car. Cameron never talks about it with pride. He talks about it with fear. He describes how much his father loves the car, and in doing so, quietly reveals how little he feels loved himself. John Hughes never shows Cameron's father on screen, yet his presence hangs over nearly every scene. That's a remarkable piece of writing. We understand their relationship entirely through Cameron's behavior. Back at the house, Ferris comes up with one last desperate plan. If they can put the Ferrari on jack stands and run it in reverse, maybe the odometer will roll backward and erase the evidence. It's exactly the kind of ridiculous solution Ferris has relied on all day. But this time, life doesn't cooperate. As the wheels spin faster and faster, Cameron simply watches. He's no longer thinking about the mileage. He's thinking about the years he's spent in fear of disappointing a father who seems to care more about a car than his own son. Then, in a moment that changes the entire film, Cameron walks towards the Ferrari and kicks it. It isn't an act of anger. It's an act of liberation. For the first time in the movie, Cameron isn't following Ferris's plan. He's making his own choice. And in that single moment, Ferris Bueller's Day Off stops being about Ferris's adventure and becomes Cameron's coming-of-age story. With one final kick, Cameron sends the Ferrari crashing through the garage window and into the ravine below. The car is gone, but something else has disappeared with it. The fear that has controlled Cameron his entire life. Ferris immediately tries to take the blame. It's exactly what we've come to expect from him. Throughout the day, he's been the one with the plan, the confidence, and the answers. But this time, Cameron stops him. He quietly tells Ferris that he has to face his father himself. It's the moment the entire movie has been building toward. Cameron isn't suddenly fearless. He's simply tired of being afraid. For the first time, he chooses confrontation over avoidance, and in doing so, becomes a completely different person than the one we met lying in bed that morning. At the same time, Ferris races through neighborhood backyards, fences, and swimming pools in one final sprint to beat his parents home. It's an ending that perfectly mirrors the beginning of the film. Ferris started the day by convincing everyone he was sick. Now, he has just minutes to convince them that he never left at all. It seems as though nothing has changed. But that's only true for Ferris. For Cameron, everything has. When Ferris Bueller's Day Off ends, it's easy to remember the moments that made us laugh. The sick day, Abe Froman, the parade through downtown Chicago, the Ferrari. They're the scenes that have become a part of movie history, and they're a big reason this film has remained so beloved for nearly 4 decades. But revisiting it as adults reveals something deeper. As kids, most of us wanted to be Ferris. He was fearless, funny, and seemed to have life completely figured out. He could talk his way through any situation and turn an ordinary Wednesday into something unforgettable. But with time comes a different perspective. Many of us eventually realize we've been watching the movie through the wrong character's eyes. We become Cameron. We understand the pressure he carries, the anxiety that follows him, and the courage it takes to finally stand up for yourself. Ferris gives the movie its energy, but Cameron gives it its heart. That's why Ferris Bueller's Day Off continues to resonate long after the jokes are over. John Hughes had a remarkable ability to tell stories that grew alongside their audience. His films entertained teenagers, but they never spoke down to them. Instead, they trusted that one day those same viewers would return and discover something they couldn't have understood the first time. Maybe that's the real meaning behind Ferris's famous advice that life moves pretty fast. It's not simply about skipping school or breaking the rules. It's about recognizing the moments that shape us before they're gone. Because while Ferris Bueller got one unforgettable day off, the rest of us are reminded to make the most of the days we have left.